Hi folks, I want to talk to you today about government reform. I've always been in the forefront of various kinds and levels of reform, from term limits and shrinking the legislature to tightening the rules concerning gifts government employees may receive and their relationships with outside influences. Today, I want to talk about an old problem where I believe we can make a difference. That involves executive session abuse. We've all been to public meetings where the board or council retreats to a back room to discuss a topic and later emerges only to vote on a matter without public discussion. It's frustrating for the public to be subjected to that kind of treatment, but it is all too frequent in our state. There are situations where it is necessary for public bodies to discuss certain matters in private, such as negotiating a contract or whether to discipline an employee or whether to litigate a certain matter. We already have rules written that govern these topics, but the rules are vague and are often abused by elected officials in several ways. One way is to call an executive session and while in the back room discussing one subject, stray off on a tangent and start discussing other subjects that should by law be discussed in public. Sometimes it is politically convenient for officials to discuss politically sensitive matters in private to avoid pushback from the public. But the norm must be all deliberations should be discussed in public, except for very special exceptions. The abuse arises when officials overgeneralize an exemption category. For example, I mentioned that public bodies may discuss discipline of employees in executive session. This is referred to as the personnel exemption. All other personnel-related matters should be discussed in public. The problem is, when any personnel matter arises, the officials say, "Oh, that's personnel. We can discuss that in executive session." In other words, they use the guise of personnel to hide their discussions, even when the narrow exemption does not apply. Adding to the problem is that the penalty for non-compliance is a $100 fine, which is rarely enforced. I have introduced House Bill 1671 to tighten the rules for executive session, specifically requiring public bodies to discuss all matters in public except for more narrow exceptions. It goes one step further, requiring an audio recording of the executive session so that if there is an allegation of abuse, it can be verified later by a judge. Currently, no record of executive session is kept, so any allegations of impropriety are very difficult to prove. The bill also requires the solicitor to advise the body on whether the topic they plan to discuss in executive session is appropriate, and that advice will also be recorded. My goal is to make government as transparent as possible, make it difficult for government to circumvent the rules, and make it easy for the public to participate and stay informed on what their government is doing. These changes are a great start to move us further toward that goal. If you have any questions about my legislation, please let me know. Thank you and God bless.